I'm a social worker to the bone, my friends. I have been blessed with the opportunity to be a field social worker for 25 years here in the Valley, and then bringing education into my world about a little over 11 years ago here in the district. Has been a new found passion for education, because education wasn't always my pathway. I was like, I'm going to be a field social worker until they bury me 6 feet under. I'm going to be out in the field. And so it's been a blessing to be able to bring the field into the classroom for me. I hope it translates to students. I'm always going to be a champion for social work, either in the field or in the classroom. And now with the opportunity to be able to share the field of social work with those who believe that that's a path for them, I get really jazzed up about it, because it's easy in the sense the passion. I feel that passion's there for it. So it's easy for me to share it and to do it, but also understanding that for students, it's a journey. And I was once in their shoes. Little story, I'm a community college gal. I am a Maricopa product. I went to Paris Valley Community College for my associates many moons ago, and to be kind of that full circle moment of being back in a community college setting and now teaching, it feels good. It feels really good to be here. So PAR year 2, whoop whoop. So they haven't taken me out yet, and if they do, I'll be kicking and screaming. So I've enjoyed being here. So I'm going to share a little bit about our 291 class. It's called Social Service Delivery Systems. Big, long term to mean our to get out into the field. And so that is the capstone of this. Oh, I'm getting a feedback from somewhere. Hopefully it's here. In this class, students have the opportunity to do service learning. I don't like to say they are forced to do service learning. I hope they want to do service learning. It is a core requirement of the class for service learning for these 40 hours, but I really hope it drives home the key principles of not just social work, but the key concepts and the key competencies of this particular course. I'm not going to read to you, my friends. I know you can see the slides. I believe maybe will they have access to the slides, because I am a fast talker, Wisconsin in me, auctioneer at heart. I talk fast, so I'm not going to read every slide to you, but please know if you have questions, please let me know along the way and stop me. I'm an open book, my friend. So want to make sure our class kind of trickles up the tree of Maricopa life. We have our student outcomes, of course, individually within the classroom. They all align, just like with all your classes, kind of go trickle up into our course objectives, to our program objectives, and our larger institutional force fees. This class really hits home with our critical thinking of our force fees, critical thinking, in that, sorry, lost my slide here. The cultural and global engagement in this class. With service learning, I really try to take the perspective for students, finding a placement, finding an opportunity that means something. We have the luxury in our field to tap into so many different disciplines. And with that, students can really deep dive into what is their interest area. Usually when it comes to this course, all of our students are most likely, almost 98% declared social work majors. In this course, it's usually the last one they take, probably because of the service learning requirement. But when I get them in this class, they're like, social work is my jam. I'm like, my jam too. So they get a chance to be a little more directed. And I say that to mean I want them to find placements that really ring true to them. Either it's passion driven, interest driven, they want to make an impact in a particular area. And for us, on a instructor level, my engagement with the Center for Community and Civic Engagement is really important, because they have a beautiful database of providers that have been vetted and approved for our students to do that 40 hours. And in that, you can really deep dive into the database to see what fits my personality, what fits my interest. So I ask students, to explore for themselves, where do you want to make impact? Micro, meso, macro? And how do you want to do that? Is that in a school setting? Is that going to be in a community-based center that serves individuals experiencing homelessness? Is that going to be foster care? Is that going to be working with youth, adults, older adults? We get a chance to really kind of dive into that and have that discussion. And with that, I have to make sure of course, with the objectives, that we are really meeting that case management model. In this class, with a case management model for our students is how do you touch into the high touch areas of introduction to social work practice? How do you engaging with families and communities? How do you assess needs? How do you link the need to a resource? How do you tap into resources? How do we serve that population fully? How do we track progress? All this case management mindset should be in the forefront as they go into that service learning experience, because I'm expecting them to engage in this case management model in their time out in the field. And for me, I want our students to get all they can from this. I want them to really be prepared for the next step. I hope and encourage all of our students to go into that next step of that four-year institution. ASU being a large feeder school of our students for the social work program, probably secondary to NAU Open Flagstaff as well. But I want our students to have experiences here in this class that's robust, and when they transfer, it's not new to them. They know what to expect. Because when they leave us doing 40 hours, they're getting ASU, NAU, and they're doing 500 hours of internship at that time. But I want to prepare them. So we're going to talk today about service learning and collaborative assignments. Because I really try to model this class after their class at ASU, at NAU for practicum. So I hopefully create a smooth transition so they get that whole no surprises. And to do that, we have a set of activities, assessments, assignments that really build upon their core knowledge from all their basic social work classes. And in this class, we look at building a portfolio. I want students to have this body of work that they have put forth that really demonstrates that they have captured all the student objectives, can harness the case management model, not just understand it, but operationalize it, put it into action, and reflect upon it. So we're building this, I call it a body of work. We're going to work collaboratively, collaborative assignments, one of our high impact practices, working collaboratively in the classroom. And I embrace a cohort model or a pod model where students they get assigned a little mini family. You know, they have a set of 3 to 4 colleagues that is kind of like their bond, their group. We instruct as a whole, but they triage together as a unit. So when it comes to doing the mock interviews, doing the mock assessments, doing resource navigation, they do it together as a whole and work collaboratively support one another through those processes. And those are what I call some of these more low stake assignments. There are assignments where I don't necessarily assign a grade to. I'm a firm believer in practice doesn't make perfect. I don't like to penalize students for asking the wrong question in the assessment, or they forgot to fill in that blank. This is an opportunity in that cohort or pack model to make mistakes. It's where it's okay to ask the questions. It's okay to fumble. It's okay to ask for clarity. It's okay to not know the answer. So I like to combine low stakes, high stake assignments, but on the low stake ends, non-graded assignments, peer-to-peer graded assignments, because I want them to feel safe to make mistakes, especially in a profession where we are dealing with some high acuity issues at times. We may not always get the opportunity to feel, to make the mistakes and to learn and grow. So we look at this building a portfolio, doing it collaboratively with our groups. It allows for that safe place to land, And so I love kind of being able to combine the way they do, working on the documentation, working on the interviewing skills, working on the way that they support families and communities on a larger scale, doing it in an environment where they can work with one another and get that feedback one-on-one. I roam the room a lot in my class to listen in because I want to see how they troubleshoot together. I want to see how they critically think together. I want to see if they can support one another and how they go to each other first before they pull me into it. So I love that as they build this portfolio, they can have a sense of autonomy, but also this idea of collaborative effort where it's a safe place to not be perfect. And I love that piece. And then again, the 40 hours of service learning is a huge component in with our accreditation body for social work. When they go through this class, when I issue their letter grade based off their core content and their course assignments, This 40 hours of service learning is a requirement. I'm attesting that they have completed 40 hours plus the completion of the core coursework itself. And so it's, you have to do it. I hate to say it, they got to do it. But in that 40 hours, that's where they put all of this hard work together and take it out in the field. And that's where we have to find these directed, meaningful, intentional placements for our students with the opportunity to see the case management model in action. And that's what the service learning brings to it. Now, with that comes a host of challenges at times because, social work is unique. Now, I will debate with you that I can tie social work into any field out there. Try me, I'll find a way to connect it. But there's so many opportunities out there for our students, but we want to make sure they're having these experiences that are targeted to the true heart of social work, the values, the principles, the guiding, worldview of social work. Can we find placements that can do that for them within our surrounding areas so they have that meaningful targeted experience? And with that service learning experience, they are then gathering information about human service organizations in the Valley. My end result with the students in this class, they do a paper over their service learning experience. And that paper is kind of the final capstone of their whole entire portfolio of work that they have created. So in their presentation, they are presenting their portfolio of work. They're highlighting an organization, and they're also sharing their reflections on the entire process as a whole. To me, that's the gold. To get that reflection part is the gold for me. That's what I want to hear from students. I want to hear how the experience was from start to finish. And so with this presentation and their final paper, not only am I giving my goal, which is that process feedback, and also how I can modify, tweak, and do better for the next cohort, but also for students to share with one another. Hopefully, students walk out of the room at the end of semester as a budding social worker with their own toolbox of 25 to 30 new resources they didn't know about before. So when they're at the organization doing the service learning, they're going to get information about that service learning organization, and then they're going to be sharing that with everybody else. So when they come to the presentation time, I walk out, hopefully knowing something I didn't know before, and now I'm out in the field, come across the same issue in the field, I have a contact, I have a resource, because I know where to begin. I like to share a little success stories of our students. I want to share a couple snapshots from some events that students have completed. We have students doing work in crisis providers, child care providers, foster care serving organizations, organizations that support individuals experiencing homelessness. I love that wide variety because it really shows the students how social work really taps in to so many different areas. So we have the collaborative component in the classroom, and we get the service learning being out in the field. The middle picture here, top center, it was a student I had a year and a half ago. He was a student who was legally blind, also hard of hearing, and he utilized his service learning actually here on campus. If we can, we'd like to engage with our campus community. We have a lot of opportunities here on campus that reflect core values of social work. And so the student worked along with our counseling services and the Center for Community and Civic Engagement. His project was all around devising a presentation, creating a presentation that shows other students how he navigates life as a student who is living with visual impairment and deaf and hard of hearing community, and how he navigates the school community to be successful. So he put on a presentation of awareness to the entire campus community here, and had over 50 participants come to share and learn his journey as a student receiving diverse services, but he was successful here on campus. That's amazing. That brought awareness to our campus community. That allowed that student to harness his own power and share his journey through the college experience. And things like that, we can be creative in the way that we define service learning. His way of giving service was to educate and inform, and hopefully change attitudes, thoughts, and beliefs around disabilities. Top right up there is it's actually a blanket. It was a student who was homebound. She had a complex pregnancy and was unable to leave her home on bed rest. And I go, let's be creative. What do you like to do? Because social work, social work, my friends, it's passion driven. It's finding what you're interested in and running with it. I go, what do you like to do? What's your interest? She goes, I sit at home and I crochet. And I was like, all right, let's see what we can do here. Oh, I don't crochet. I go, what else do you do? She goes, I journal. I was okay, all right, let's see what we can do there. There's an organization out there, it's called A Blanket of My Own. It works with hospitals that support NICUs. And so the student was able to connect with a hospital social worker at at Phoenix Children's and Banner Gateway, and work with a social worker on looking at the social work perspective of hospital social work. Got to donate her time of making blankets to kids in the NICU. And so she was being of service of Hearts in Hand, but that social worker took her under her wing and virtually included her in visits with families. So she could observe intakes and assessments. And I'm like, this is social work. Being able to meet people where they are as a student, as a professional, and that's the creativity that comes from our students. They just are, if we harness it, if we give the power, they will harness it and they will make it work. If we make space for them, they'll make it work. Examples from presentations. When I was sharing about students doing their final presentation, hopefully our students walk out of the classroom with 20 to 25, 30 new resources. So when they're sharing their final presentation, a component of that is highlighting the organization itself, where they went, what do they provide, who's eligible, things of that nature. So students, again, have a toolbox of tools when they walk out of here. They transfer over to ASU, NAU, wherever it may be. They go into their internships. They now have additional resources to support the communities they're going to serve in the future. So that's one of our final outcomes is their paper and their final presentation. First, just go over the rubric as a whole. I'd like to take it as a perspective of lessons learned and highlights. Through teaching this course, I've taught it many times over the years. I didn't teach it this semester, which I actually kind of liked. It will take time to reflect upon past student evaluations, past reflection reports, and also journaling assignments students have completed to find out where our gaps are at. I can say we had a lot of high points, a lot of great, strengths that come out of these high impact practices of collaboration and service learning. I think a great high point is students get exposure out in the field, that real day in the life of a great high point. Seeing the diverse elements of social work, how students can really understand that social work is everywhere. That's a great high point of this course, or exposure from the course. Students can reflect upon their experience from walking in the classroom, finding their passion population, all the way through their service learning, working in their pod, and their final outcome. Having that full view of the entire journey is a great strength for the students that have. And also, I think linking this class to their next step, our transfer partners, if we're ASU, NAU, or other accredited universities for social work programming, I think them having a comfort level of the process will hopefully help with the whole shock of the newness of a new campus, being part of a new program, help ease that transition. Now, with that, definite lessons learned. Coming from looking at the rubric itself, and again, Megan will share it with you, but looking at the rubric itself, I have to make sure that I'm looking at where the gaps lie. Where were the pain points? Where did I struggle as an instructor? Where did our students struggle in the process and the journey? 40 hours, doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. If you are a student full-time, work full-time, have a family, have other obligations. Our students are multifaceted. They're not just students. 40 hours is a big ask. And when I add the pressure of have to do it, it's added pressure, so communicating early. One thing, a lesson learned I took probably 2 semesters ago was communicating the expectation of service learning earlier, before the class even begins. I find myself now doing outreach 2 weeks before class starts. Even though they know it's in the description, they're not reading that. Getting out the word earlier because it is a commitment. It is a lot. And for myself as an instructor is to intervene sooner. I felt that I was tracking progress pretty well. Doing a lot of reliance on the pods and their cohorts. But I found for myself, I need to make a change of how I not just provide feedback, how am I checking in taking a pulse along the way? Because it is a big ask. Building this portfolio, even though it's done in pieces, we don't want to miss a piece. And then we know how it feels. We miss one piece, we don't have that domino trickle down effect of the dominoes falling on us. So I found one of the areas of growth was to check in more often and diversify the way how I check in. Not just one-on-one and as a group, but I started offering not just office hours, but having an open lab for this class at least twice a semester. To catch people, meet them where they're at, because I want to find the gaps in there. Also, I have changed up a bit. Intervene early, revamp directions. I think I heard that echoed with my previous colleague here presenting about it may have to revamp the way we clarify some directions, clarify expectations, because it is a big lift in this course, but how do we make sure it is crystal clear? Teaching this class in person is a little more challenging when I have it in a fully online environment. Being more creative in how we do pod work in a fully online course. How that communication need kind of gets ramped up a bit. But seeing the blind spots, but also allowing students to know that they have the voice to say, I'm stuck, I don't know where to go. Finding a placement is hard. It's not as easy as just showing up. We have to kind of ramp this up where it's not so daunting on students, but keep them jazzed and energized and keep going forward with it. But we have to make sure we can intervene early and help along the way. Thank you, my friend. Coming to a close, my friend, service learning is near and dear to me, because for me as a social worker, I felt a great taste of field work. It's also a great preparation for their next step. All of our students transfer into that next step of four-year institution to continue their social work education. But service learning is that day in the life of. It's how you get to see, you get a taste. Am I going to like this? Do I want to do this? Do I want to commit to this field? And I think it's best for students to learn that now versus later. Also, being able to help students with that targeted, meaningful, intentional placement. Is key. I don't know about you, when I was in my program, I did many internships and came across a couple of duds, and I'm like, man, that was just not worth it. We wanted to find ways here at Mesa where we have experiences for students that are robust, meet their need, but also hopefully energize and reaffirm what they want to do in the next step as a social worker. But that's me, my friends. I do love high impact practices. I think from the instructor standpoint, they do take time. They do take a lot of dedication, a lot of follow-up, a lot of revamp and retweaking, but all for the betterment of students and all for the to perceive the outcomes that they want in their education journey. It's worth it. But I do find them to be they're time consuming to implement, but they are very meaningful and very impactful for students. And of course, I could take questions, but service learning is my jam. I love collaborative learning. I think students learn a lot from one another and be able to reflect with one another. Thank you so much for your time.